Aquaman is directed by James Wan and it stars Jason Momoa as Arthur Curry slash Aquaman. And Aquaman is, of course, the son of a human and an Atlantean. And this, of course, is not allowed by the Kingdom of Atlantis and is a very unforgiving place as well. It is in the control of one King Orm. Now Aquaman, or Arthur Curry, with the help of Mira, played by Amber Heard, has to go and find the Trident of Atlan to claim his birthright and challenge King Orm for the throne of Atlantis. This movie actually had me really excited, but also had me a little bit cautious because DC has not been having the best track record as of late, as I mentioned in my nerd discussion video, so you can check it out there. However, I was willing to give this movie a chance because I actually really like Aquaman. He's actually one of my favorite superheroes and he's one of the most underrated for a while. So let's talk about it. Let's delve deeper into this movie, talk about what are some things I liked, what are some things I didn't like. Am I going to give it 2 thumbs up, 2 thumbs down, somewhere in the middle? So let me start by saying this. Aquaman was a very good movie. I really enjoyed this one. I thought this was a fantastic film, very enjoyable for the whole family. Matter of fact, I went with my mom, dad, and sister. And let me tell you this, my mom does not like comic book movies. She just doesn't like them. She doesn't get them. She gets confused. She doesn't know what the hell is going on any of these films. But if you can make my mom sing the praises of your film, you did something right. So DC has obviously done something right with this film. Besides this movie, Wonder Woman and Thor Ragnarok, she really does not care much for superhero films. Like I said, if you made my mom sing the praises of your movie, you did something right. But let's kind of break it down a little bit more. Let's talk about some of the things that were some of the pros and cons of Aquaman. So I think the biggest pro in this film is Jason Momoa as Aquaman. I think he has the personality down. He looks like a surfer bro, dude. Yeah, bro. When there were rumblings of Jason Momoa possibly being cast as Aquaman, I was like,
shut up and take my money.
That is perfect for him. He's from Hawaii. He studied marine biology, for goodness sake. I mean, hello, and he's there. He's got the look too, the long hair and the beard. I think the personality of Aquaman in the film is very reminiscent of the 90s Aquaman back in the Justice League cartoons, as well as the one in the Justice Friends. So in the Justice Friends, it was a very kind of a more funnier, a little bit more cheesier and campier version of Aquaman. And then the 90s Aquaman was a lot more serious and a lot more badass. He had a hook for a hand. Like, he literally was a more badass version of Captain Hook. Like, what more do you want? Of course, in this one, he doesn't have a hook. That would be pretty cool, though. I would love to see that. Maybe Aquaman 2. I don't know. I thought he was the best part about this movie. I think the movie version of Aquaman is definitely a perfectly balanced amalgamation of the Justice Friends Aquaman and the 90s Aquaman. So I thought that was really cool. They did a good job with Aquaman, as well as Mira. I think, first of all, Amber Heard delivers a really good performance in here. She's a very good actress, and I think she did a good job with this. I like the fact that she's not like just a damsel in distress and like Aquaman doesn't have to save her every 5 minutes. I'm glad that they show that she can handle her own when it comes to combat, when it comes to magic, and
Parkour!
There's a scene where she does a lot of parkour, which is pretty cool. One cool part about this in this movie with Mira and her water magic, and this is not a spoiler, okay? This is not a spoiler. So they're in this wine cellar, her and a bunch of bad guys, and she basically uses her water powers to break all the wine bottles in the cellar, and she flings it at the bad guys, and as they're flying towards the bad guys, the wine solidify and turn into spikes and stab the bad guys and kill them, and then they kind of dissipate. That was awesome. That actually kind of harkens over to another point I wanted to talk about, which was the action scenes. And the action scenes were absolutely fantastic in this movie. Whether they be on land or they be on water, they were all really good. However, I do have one gripe. I know we're not at the cons yet, but I want to talk about this. My one gripe with the action scenes is that some of them just end really soon. Just as it was starting to pick up steam, it ends very soon. And I felt myself going, oh, is that it? Another thing I did really enjoy in this film was the music. I actually thought, I mean, even the music is kind of also like up and down, because there are some times where the music is a little bit distracting. I'm just like, why the hell are we having this type of of song for this situation? I really enjoyed the fact that there's a lot of synths in the music, especially when they're underwater. There's a lot of synthesizer being utilized, and I thought that was really cool. I really like that. Not just because I'm a huge fan of synthesizer, and a huge 80s fan and whatnot. I just thought this was really good. I thought that made a lot of sense. Made me feel like I was in an underwater world. I also really liked some of the flashback scenes. I thought the flashback intertwined with present day, kind of in the beginning when he's goes with Mira to retrieve the Trident of Atlan. This really made a lot of sense. This was really cool, and I just love the fact that how they were kind of intertwined with the present day. It wasn't intrusive, it wasn't disruptive, it was actually very smooth transition. So I have to commend the editor and director James Wan for that. And this movie is also very funny. And in that sense, this movie kind of reminded me a little bit of the aforementioned Thor Ragnarok. And I like the fact that the humor is not like intrusive. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just kind of just weaved in to the movie. They didn't make it like a, hey, this is supposed to be funny and you're supposed to laugh at it and like just shove it at our faces. That's kind of something that I've criticized Marvel for, and I'm glad that DC is doing it properly. And also the Kingdom of Atlantis and the CGI in this movie, all were really, really good. Whether it be Atlantis or, and even the sea creatures, they were all really good. I have to say, laser sharks. Okay? Laser sharks are in this movie. Okay? What more do you want? Like, seriously, there are laser sharks in this film. So that was pretty awesome. I just had to talk about that. But I thought that it was really well made. And I've talked about this too in my nerd discussion. And I think this really saw the blending in of like the practical effects with the CGI was really, really good, and I loved it. You could kind of tell that it was CGI for some of these settings. It's not intrusive. It's just very well interwoven into the film. And Atlantis, by the way, looks beautiful. I wish I could live there. I wish that was the level I had to play in Kingdom Hearts. This right here was really bad, and I hated it so much. That is the one thing I hate about the Kingdom Hearts games, is the level of Atlantica. For the rest of my life, that is the one thing that I will always be hating about that game. If Tommaso Ciampa is the scourge of NXT, the Atlantica is the scourge of Kingdom Hearts. I also wanted to talk about one point. Black Manta in this film makes his own costume, and they show it. I have not seen a movie where the villain or the hero or whoever makes his or her own outfit. You have in Spider-Man Homecoming where Peter Parker gets his costume, but he didn't make it. It was Iron Man, but they don't even show him making the costume. Like here, they actually show Manta constructing his outfit, and that was really cool. This movie also had a lot of cheesy elements and a lot of cheesy plot points, and we'll talk about it in a sec. But I think one thing that added to the cheesiness was some of these humans dressed up as sea creatures. They kind of reminded me of like villains from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And it was fine though. I don't think that was a bad thing, but I just had to mention that. But Black Manta making his costume was really, really awesome. So I mentioned that there are a handful of flaws in this film, and we'll talk about that in just a sec. And I also mentioned that this movie is extremely cheesy and extremely corny. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. This is what really added to the levity of this film. I'm glad that it wasn't like dark and brooding like Batman v Superman was. I think this was good. When I first heard that DC was gonna go for a more serious tone for their films, and I was already thinking about characters like Aquaman and Flash and Green Lantern and Shazam. I mean, how are you gonna make them so dark? I mean, they're not dark. I mean, for example, Shazam is a kid, for goodness sake. So I didn't know how they were going to do it, but I'm kind of glad that they kind of stuck with a much more lighter tone for this film. I will be honest, I was initially a little bit concerned about it, but I thought it was fun. So it just added a lot more to the fun and a lot more to the action. And it kind of reminded me, in a way, of a 1980s action film. That's basically what Aquaman is. It's a film. in the 1980s starring Aquaman. There are a few references throughout the movie, you know, as I mentioned, like I said, Thor Ragnarok, it definitely took a lot of inspiration from there. I felt Black Manta's character had a little bit of Eric Killmonger in him, and let's not forget
the Ring of Fire!
Yeah, they went there. They went. So let's talk about some of the not so good things in this movie. This movie is very flawed. The first thing I want to talk about is the fact that this movie is very exposition heavy. Now, I kind of understand why it's that way, but I wish they kind of did it in a much more entertaining fashion. Instead of just having two characters talk, the exposition could have been handled much more smoothly with a little bit more finesse. However, they just had a bunch of characters talking, and they're just like, oh, so this is what happens when you do this, and this is what happens when you do that, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, why are we doing that? And that actually, the exposition and everything, really did hurt the pacing of this film, which is kind of all over the place. Like, this movie is 2.5 hours long. And I felt that it could have been a lot shorter, a lot more condensed. They could have trimmed some of the fat in this movie, and it would have actually been a much more smoother, much more crisper film. I felt that they had gotten the pacing down with Wonder Woman. I don't know why they couldn't do that with Aquaman. I don't know why. I mean, you did it once. Just do it again.
That's all you have to do!
Another thing I have to talk about, the DC films just in general suffer from the same thing that Marvel suffers from, and that is the villains. The villain in this film is Ocean Master, played by Patrick Wilson, King Orm. I did not care about this character. I did not like him. I did not dislike him. Like, he was like a stone-faced expression, except for the occasional evil smirk. He's such a one-dimensional character. Didn't really care much for Ocean Master, so that's kind of all I want to say. I wish he was a little bit more layered. I mean, there was a lot more potential. Like, there could have been so much more potential in that, but it just became fodder for Aquaman. So I really didn't want to see that. And speaking of the villains, Black Manta, a lot of people praise Black Manta, and yeah, he looks awesome. I love the suit. It's very accurate to the comics, but his arc ends a lot sooner than I thought it would. I just wanted to say that I wish that he had a lot more to do. There's a lot of potential in him too, and honestly, in the beginning, I felt that they were doing this properly. I felt that they were going the right direction, and then they just abruptly just dropped him, and I was just like, what the hell? You know, this is so weird. I thought Black Manta was going to be a villain that I actually really cared about, but, you know, I wanted to, and I kind of did, but there was just not enough of Black Manta. I don't know why they ended his arc so abruptly. So I mentioned that the flashback sequences were really good. You know, there's some flashback sequences where Willem Dafoe's character Volko is training Aquaman, is training Arthur to hone his Atlantean side and, you know, really use it to his advantage. There's a part where we have Aquaman as a teenager. That actor was horrible. I hated that actor so freaking much. I mean, he looked the part of Aquaman, of teen Aquaman, but I swear to God, that dude just, he got on my nerves. I did not like him at all. I'm glad that it was only one scene, but I'm just had to point that out. Teen Aquaman in this movie was really bad, and I hated it. I wish they picked someone else for that. So overall, as I mentioned, this is a really fun, cheesy action film that is perfect for the entire family. This movie kind of is like the Thor Ragnarok of the DC extended universe. However, I think Thor Ragnarok, though, I mean, some of the jokes in there were a lot more crass, and, you know, there were a lot of sex jokes in that movie. They actually don't have too many of that in this film, so this is a good, clean film that the whole family can enjoy, and I thought this was really good. So I think DC did a really good job, despite some of the flaws that it had, despite some of the things that they could have done better. I think that at the end of the day, DC has come through the fire and has come out successfully with this film, Aquaman. So I really, really enjoyed this movie, and I'm looking forward to see where they go with this character. I'm pretty sure that we're going to get another Justice League movie, possibly after Shazam and Green Lantern and whatnot. So I'm really excited to see, like I said, where they go with this character. in the near future. But as far as a rating goes, I am giving DC's Aquaman a thumbs up. So, as I mentioned in my last NXT and 205 Live review, this is my last video of 2018. Now, I will be taking a little break for about a week, and I will be back afterwards. And then I'm going to have something a little bit different for you guys the week after. But with that being said, this does conclude my review for Aquaman and my final video of 2018. Let me know what you guys thought about this film in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on social media and tell your friends about the Nerdy Mark. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you so much for all the support. I really appreciate it. Couldn't have done it without you guys. But until next time, this is Sid signing off. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. You guys take care. Bye-bye.